the whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happening.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendenhall, he said he could make it.
Don't dig this hole. Phil, credit to the guy, always manages to do well what he has, but he is a shocking personality. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-event.
No, my life from Rashad Mendenhall.
Right, here we go. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report. Commissioner Stubbs again, just pulling the plug of his monitor in and out because it died at the exact wrong moment. But hopefully I've unmuted myself and you're hearing me. And I'm here with Chris, as I did. That's good to hear. I'm here with Chris as always. How's it going, Chris?
Morning, yes, very well. Very well. This is a very different time we're doing this. This is the midst of the weekend.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Nothing like a game day pod. Yeah, absolutely. We are 7 hours away from full kickoff. Obviously we've already had the Thursday night game, but yeah, we've had some Friday versions of the pod for you pretty much so far this season. But yeah, no, good to have a good game day pod. Lots to go through today. Is a bumper news section, a couple of trades as the title suggests as well. So should we just get straight into the recaps from week 6, Chris? Yes, let's do it then. So we'll go back to week 6. We'll start off with the marquee matchup as always, and here it is. Gridiron Gang took on Tom's Tyrants in week 6 of the 2022 LOC season in what was the marquee matchup, because Gridiron Gang seeking to stay up in the division, keep up in the division. Meanwhile, Tom's Tyrants still searching for their first win. It was one of the 3 Founding Bowl games that we had last week, and obviously this was a rematch of Corona Bowl 3 as well. And this one went the way of Gridiron Gang, 107-51. Looking down the lineup, so Josh Allen turned up as he usually does with 32 points for Gridiron Gang. Travis Kelce got 11, not quite the 4 touchdown performance of the week before. Alan Lazard got 14. Joe Mixon got 13. Kenneth Walker got 17, the $113 man himself. Harrison Barker got 11, and that rounds out the team effort of 107. On the other side of the ball for Tom's Tyrants, was a slow start and stayed fairly slow the whole way, unfortunately. A couple of injuries along the way, with Marquise Brown and J.K. Dobbins getting injured. They only got 5.8 and 1.5 each. Elsewhere, Tom Brady, he only got 15. Miles Sanders got 13. That was the only other player above 10. So, an unfortunate day for Tom's Tyrants with 51. But even if the guys were healthy, they probably would have lost that one anyway. In the history of this matchup all time, Gridiron Gang has now leveled the series at 8-8. So, yeah, Chris, the search for the first win for Tom's Tyrants goes on. Didn't get it in the marquee matchup here.
They did not, no. And as predicted, it was quite a comfortable win for you in the end. Look, I'm not going to completely write Tom's team off, but the wheels have indeed fallen off the wagon this week.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot there. I mean, if you think about medical dramas, when the guy flatlines, there's not.
We need House in here. Where's House?
So the only sign of any sort of life was unfortunately on his bench, where Brandon Ayuk managed to go off. But similarly, that wouldn't have made a great deal of difference on the day anyway, because it was just a subpar performance. In fact, significantly subpar performance from a lot of the players that were there. Obviously, touchdown bereft. Lots of low yardage totals there. So just a bad day all round.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, completely different. So there's lots to be excited about there. High yardage touchdowns. Obviously Melvin Gordon got benched, so that's difficult. But
that was an odd one.
the assumption is Robinson comes in, and so this is Brian Robinson comes in going forward. That makes that again a pretty formidable lineup. Who knew that a credible team this year may end up being Mixon, Kenneth Walker, and Brian Robinson going forward. Engine room with that team, but Josh Allen and Kelce obviously give you a really solid floor every week as well. So
sure.
That is a great score, especially the week where there was pretty limited offense across the league.
It was a low scoring week. You're 100% correct, as we'll see. I think I was the only one of the 2 teams last week that went over 100 points, so that's generally a good barometer for that.
Doesn't usually happen that, we see a few more up there, but excellent result once again for you, despite pretty much carrying a player.
Essentially, good old Melvin Gordon.
onwards.
Yeah, I'd have been pretty salty if I needed him to deliver me some points on Monday night, and that happened. But as you say, it didn't go that way, so fortunate. Yeah, as you say, unfortunate week for Tom. Don't really have anything more to add than that. It was just a bad day. I think for Tom's team, you kind of look at the top two there. They need Brady and Evans to both have a good day, I think, to give them a solid chance. Obviously playing without Jonathan Taylor, him coming back is going to be a big boon for them, as you say. And as we've seen with the coach ranking, he has had some points on the bench so far through the season, so it isn't all a lost cause. But yeah, it feels like each week there's a few reasons that seem to conspire against Tom for one reason or another, and that's just how it's gone so far. So we both picked my team last week, so we're off to a good start in the pick'em. So we'll go on to the next game then, which was the second of the 3 founding balls on the week. It was Forge Flyers against Bare Necessities. The second round of the week, Forge Flyers and Bare Necessities faced off. Both of these teams have had a very good start of the season. Forge Flyers were leading the division of 4-1. Bare Necessities 3-2, looking to keep up with the undefeated thus far Ixan. But they were the highest scoring team, and they got more points in this one, 93 to 68, getting the victory over Forge Flyers. Looking down the lineup, Lamar Jackson didn't have the best of days, but 17 points got him ticking along. Chris Godwin got 10, AJ Brown got 13, Leonard Fournette got 16, Austin Eckler got 14, and Devin Singletary got 11, en route to that team effort 93. On the other side of the ball for Forge Flyers, Kyler Murray couldn't capitalise on Lamar Jackson's average day. He only got 14 points himself. Jaden Waddle got 11 points, Alvin Kamara got 12, no other player over 10 there, but a few high single digits at least. But yes, still not enough obviously for Forge Flyers. With that 68-point effort. Looking at the history of this match all time, Bare Necessities are now 8-11 all time against Forge Flyers, and yeah, both these two 4-2 now. Yeah, so a day, slightly subpar day for your team, Chris, certainly by its early season standards.
Totally agree. It's wild to see. It's completely up and down, and yeah, we've always been proponents of the fact that touchdowns win games. I think that is too true in this game, because that's pretty much the difference between the two teams. Is that Dave's skill players have scored a touchdown each, and his quarterback has scored a touchdown as well, which
helps. It's
pretty difficult with feeble effort from the Cardinals in the game in Seattle. But yeah, the fact that there's touchdowns galore across that board has got him across the line to 93 points. In what is, we've seen this team go absolutely mental, but again, benefiting from guys in good offenses. You look at Godwin, good volume, Brown, good volume and a touchdown, Fournette, plenty of volume and a touchdown, Eckler, plenty of volume and a touchdown, Singletary much the same. So that's where he's going to be able to hang his hat. Is that all those guys are going to be on formidable offense throughout the course of the year. Once you look across to my team, and that isn't necessarily the case right now, so the Cardinals are a bit of a state. The Broncos are certainly a state. Miami can't work out who's playing quarterback, unless Tulla's obviously expected to come back this week, but for the last couple, it's been very difficult. New Orleans, much the same, stuttering offense, albeit Kamara's got plenty of volume, and obviously if they shut down the run in Cleveland, then Chubb's value is significantly less. So yeah, this is a bad week where those offenses didn't fire. It was a league-wide issue last week. But obviously Dave's team has benefited from having those top guys in good offenses, scoring touchdowns in the right positions, and that's exactly what you want in this game. Yeah,
no, completely. I think, as you say, for your team, it's probably among the worst point total which you'll probably get on the year, because I don't think teams are going to be able to shut down Nick Chubb like New England did. We know what Belichick's like, and the strength of the Patriots' defense is the running defense. And Kyler Murray, it's been not a great start to the season, but as you say, it was just such a weird one against Seattle because the matchup should have been really good. It just didn't pan out that way in the game. As you say, Cortland Sutton, a bad day. He's actually probably been the one shining light, I would say, of the Broncos so far, as his point totals haven't been that bad. As you say, guys like Waddle, the only way is up. Kamara, I think, should be the same once he gets a bit healthier, and obviously the Saints get a bit more back on track. They're quite banged up too. So yeah, I think definitely better days ahead for you. Obviously, my dad's team's so far shown why they've been the highest scoring team. As you say, even in a lower scoring week, still going over the 90-point mark and getting the win there. So this was also a sneaky, winningest team of all time bowl almost, because both of you were up there in the win totals. So we'll see how that shakes out as well when we get to that section of the pod. We had opposite picks for this one, I think. So I picked your team and you went with my dad's. So you got the pick right and lost the game. So silver lining, I suppose, for you.
Exactly. Small consolation.
Yeah. We'll go on to the next game here. The Dream Team took on Neapolitans as well in week 6, and this was actually probably one of the better games of the week, as both teams had a good score entering this one as well. The Dream Team 1-4, and Neapolitans 2 and 3. Neapolitans looking to keep up in the division. The Dream Team just really trying to start getting their season going, and the Dream Team did take it 116, which was the high total on the week, to 93. That means Neapolitans has now dropped 3 in a row, falling to 2-4. But Dream Team climb up to 2-4 there to hopefully make a recovery. Looking down the lineups, Joe Burrow sprung to life for the Dream Team with 39 points, and he brought Jamar Chase along with him with 25. Stephon Diggs got 21, and Darrell Henderson got 11 points. So a few star-studded performers getting that 116 for the Dream Team. And then on the other side of the board for Neapolitans, it was a bit more of a spread-out effort. Jalen Hurts got 20, Tyreek Hill got 18, Ramondre Stevenson got 21 with Damian Harris missing the game. Najee Harris found the end zone for once, and he got 11 points on with that 93 points, but wasn't enough. Slightly unfortunate for Neapolitans, as they would have beaten a handful of other teams on the day in the league. The history of this matchup all time, the Dream Team are now 3-0 against Neapolitans, so Viv rapidly becoming a bit of a bogey team for Dave. A really good performance for Viv this week, which has been a pretty slow start to the season, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, so we've said time and time again that this team's going to be very up and down. It's just by the nature of how it's set up.
Yeah.
He's got to hope that certain offences go a certain way, and particularly the Bengals offense, and that's what's happened this week. Burrow and Chase combined for a lovely points total there. Diggs in the plus matchup we talked about last week against Kansas City was always going to be a high scorer, and that's exactly what happened. But yeah, aside from that, Darrell Henderson's kind of been used touchdown dependent, obviously, to get into a double-digit score, and otherwise there's not a lot to write home about. But actually, that points total 115 is reasonably deceiving in the sense that I think Dave's all-round team performances is just a little bit better, albeit hanging his hat on Ramondre Stevenson, who has become quite the force for New England recently, and Tyreek Hill in the skill positions. But the one thing I do want to note is the 20-point or give or take 20-point difference between the two quarterbacks, and that is really where the difference lies in this game. Jalen Hurts puts up a nice total, but obviously trying to beat a 40-point total, give or take, on the other side is going to be quite some task, and one it's just very difficult to do. We've always said that when your quarterback scores more than 40 points, you very rarely lose a game, or at least in and around 40 points anyway. It's got 38.5 here, but in that ballpark region, you very rarely lose games because you just can't beat that with anything on the other side.
I'm going to see if I can find a stat for you here. Yeah, let's see. Is it on here? So teams that had okay, so if you go on the recap bit on the desktop version of the facts bit for you, it usually has some around the league stats down the side. So I was just going to scan down because it usually has something around that. So teams that had a top 5 scoring QB went undefeated this week, or the week 6, they were 2-0, so only 2 teams had 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks playing anyway. And then there's no other ones on there by the looks of things. I'll go back to the week before and see if I can find the stat, but you're absolutely right with that. Like you say, if you have that kind of score, it's usually a multiple skill position player required to offset, or obviously the quarterback your own quarterback having a good day as well.
Yeah, that's it. And I think what's letting down there, aside from Stevenson and Hill, who's had good days, and Harris, who's got himself a touchdown finally, is the fact that the Christian Kirk and Isaiah McKenzie double didn't really work out ever so well in the middle there. There wasn't a great deal else you could have done with that. But that would, to get you over 100 points and pray for your QB to do well, what you got to do. But yeah, a good result for Viv. He's going to have to rely on those three at the top, Burrow, Diggs and Chase, to be able to go in a similar kind of vein throughout the course of the year, because I don't think that Mike Williams, especially with Keenan Allen coming back, Henderson in that two-headed backfield, and Judy with all the problems that the Broncos have, are going to be able to propel him any further than that.
No, yeah, completely agree. And just to peek behind the curtain here, everyone received a message from me about trading this week, and Viv was one of the ones that nearly did come off, but just decided against it. So, yeah, you're right. I think he identifies as well, like you say, it's going to be quite boom and bust. As you say, the nature of the setup of the team, and yeah, there are some guys that definitely aren't completely firing right now. And then just to go back to that stat, so this was as of week 5, so teams were 3-0 up to and including week 5 when they started the top scoring quarterback of the week. So, as you say, Chris, it's obviously a difficult mountain to climb when you have that. In terms of the pick'ems, so you picked Viv. So you got that one right, and I picked Dave in this one, so I got that one wrong. But you are off to a good start in the picking, Chris, because
That's
3-0 so far. So yeah, we'll see where we go with this next one then. So on to the next game. UR Gold took on Ixan here in week 6 as well. Ixan entering this one 5-0, looking to stay undefeated and perhaps punch their playoff ticket earlier than anyone has done before. Meanwhile, UR Gold, they had a starting start of the season. They were 2-3 entering this one, which was still tied lead for the division. Excuse me. So definitely all to play for still, but they did lose this one to Ixan, 84-64. Looking down the lineups, Patrick Mahomes got 24 points for Ixan, and Murray Cooper got 10. Christian McCaffrey got 16 in his last game as a Panther. We'll come back to that one in a bit. And the Ravens got 10 points en route to that 84 points, which was good enough on the day and not a bad score when you looked elsewhere in the league. On the other side of the board, though, for UR Gold, they would have been hoping to do better than the 64. Matt Stafford only got 14. Michael Pittman got 13. Dalvin Cook got 14. No other players over 10 points. So the special teams notably quite low with only 2 and 1 point apiece. So they fall to 2-4, losing 2 on the trot. Meanwhile, Ixan surges ahead to 6-0 with another win, and the history of this matchup all time. Ixan are now 6-3 against UR Gold. And yeah, when will the train stop for Ixan? We do not know.
It keeps on chugging. He gets the right games at the right time, I think, because 83 is not the kind of total we've seen from this team throughout the course of the year. We talk consistently about the string of 90-point games that he's put up. But yeah, this is a very solid floor, which is exactly what this team is designed to do. Obviously, we look at the bench there. There's
nothing.
Collins and active. But yeah, the components of this team. You look at Cooper, Samuel, McCaffrey, who is now a very interesting player to look at.
Yeah,
that's it. Who got consistent yardage, consistent volume, and that got them across the line. You look at McCaffrey's total of 15.8 points there.
Yeah.
Without a touchdown is extremely impressive.
Well, and if you look at his points to start there as well, I've just brought it up on the screen for the viewers here. And he's not been flush with touchdowns for running back, obviously on such a bad team. He has not dipped below 10 points yet. Yes, he's not really had a boom game as such, but I think with where some of the first round picks have been this year, you'd absolutely take it. Thomas Torrance, for instance, picking up for that first overall, of course, I think they'd have been absolutely chuffed with that compared to what they've got from Jonathan Taylor. So yeah, as you say, very consistent.
There is no doubt, and that's all you really want. That's all you really want. But you did touch on it in the introduction to the recap. There is that special teams, DST and kicker. There is a significant point sway. I think there is there
15 points difference.
15-point difference. So you've got the majority of the points that he needs in that, and in the quarterback, I'm afraid, and that's what UR Gold has been let down for all season. It's just general QB play. If you had something that was just that little bit better, he's got Stafford, and he's also got Goff on the bench there, and Goff's been he's been a credible starter for most of the year, but he's been let down by that throughout, and unfortunately the skill positions don't help you. I mean, necessarily Pittman's had a nice game against the Jags at home, which you would expect. Dalvin Cook's doing Dalvin Cook kind of things. That's it. Finally, that's the kind of thing you want to see from your first round pick.
Yeah, he's been one of those slow starters.
Yeah. Aside from that, it's very difficult to justify those guys at the moment who for one reason or another, just to be overlooked. Aaron Jones in that his tepid Green Bay offense right now.
Yeah.
He's had some good games this year, but again, it's very, very boom and bust. Tyler Boyd in that Bengals offense isn't nearly as dominant as last season, or at least is being shut down more.
I think it kind of speaks volumes that last year Tyler Boyd was essentially a fill-in if one of Chase or Higgins missed the game. I distinctly remember playing him on a Thursday night game because Higgins wasn't playing. With all three of the guys healthy, and I know Higgins isn't quite healthy, but he did play in this one. Boyd is not really a player that should be near a fantasy lineup in a standard league.
I would think so, but you look at the different, or look at the look who you could play instead. And Brandon Cooks would be normally be playing. Jamal,
they got hit by the bye weeks for sure last week.
I guess.
Yeah.
So that's the difficulty there. But he always comes back to the QB with his team. If they can get that sorted out, then maybe they've got a bit more of a solid foundation to build on. But Ben's definitely got that in several ways, and I think going forward, yes, there are some question marks over at least one of his running backs. Not necessarily. You look at Antonio Gibson there. There's a question mark over him, but aside from that, it's a team that's rolling.
Yep.
And it keeps picking up wins, and you can't say better than that.
Absolutely. Speaking of picking up wins, we both locked Ben that last week, so absolutely smashed that one. So.
Oh, huge.
We're going on the next game then. Pakistan took on bucking the trend here in week 6 as well. Pakistan, I think, were the division leaders in Winchester division entering this one. Meanwhile, bucking the trend saw themselves in 3rd place despite being 4-1 entering this week because they're in the division with Igsan and Bare Necessities. Actually, they may have been second ahead of Bare Necessities, but they did lose this one, so they do go to 4-2. As they lost this one to Pakistan, 68-51. So not the highest scoring games. Pat will be happy with the win. It keeps them ahead in the division. They got 11 points from Justin Jefferson. Devontae Smith got 11. Zielke got 15. No other players over 10 points there, including Justin Herbert, who only got 8 on the day. But that was enough to see off bucking the trend because Carson Wentz had a very poor performance on Thursday night, which also comprised him of breaking one of his fingers. He only got 4 points. Saquon Barkley got 16, and Will Lutz, the kicker, got 14. No other players there over a 10. In fact, the only other player over 5 points was the Bucks D, who got 7. Definitely a bad day at the office for bucking the trend as they continue to grapple with those byes and injuries. The history of this matchup all time now. Pakistan. Where are you, Pat? You're over here, I think. Yep. Pakistan is now 4-1 against bucking the trend all time, so good record against Mike there. And Pat will be happy with the win because that Winchester division looks like it could be a scrappy one. So certainly every win is going to count.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Yes, it's absolutely that Pat didn't lose this game. We don't call these wins.
No, it's true.
We didn't lose. Yeah, I think that actually league wide, skill position wise for Pat's team wasn't that bad. You look at Jason Smith and Elliott putting up reasonable numbers, and actually we've seen worse across the league. But I think Justin Herbert point scoring has definitely sat down. It's not as if it's a QB and everyone else's skill positions have fallen off the cliff. This can be easily resolved by Justin Herbert putting up a score that you would expect.
Absolutely. I always look to, if your skill positions average 10, and I include kicker and defense in that, and then your quarterback gets 20, that's, I think, what we 9 players in the league, that's 100 points. Or 90 points. So and that's what you're looking for, that target. So as you say...
That is the pass score, it's exactly that, isn't it? And it doesn't put him that far away from that if he's, 18 to 25 points.
Yeah.
Spot starts Vito Benjamin and AJ Dillon on bad days for the offenses. They're probably letting down a little bit as well. Obviously, the Jets were way better than the Packers thought they would be. So there you have it. For Mike's team, because it's a complete state this week. Carson Wentz, there was red flags over him anyway going into this game, and
we spoke about that in the preview, I think, because we did it last Friday.
And so it was. Obviously, he happened to get injured in it too. Gallup and Dobbs, guys who are on the periphery of their offenses anyway, and just say Deontay Johnson, who's suffering from poor QB play, despite the fact that they won. and Clyde is being used in well, certainly start season was being used a lot, and now in the last couple of weeks, that sort of usage has dropped off. So, or it's certainly been held in check anyway. So yeah, it's a challenging thing when you're obviously number one player and Saquon Barkley goes off for 15 points, which is nice, and the second highest score is your kicker at 14. That just shows what kind of week you have. And so yeah, one to scrape off for my bad score, underlined by again spotty QB play and because of the loss of Tua. Tua comes back this week. I expect to see a bit of an increase, but I still don't like some of those guys that he's having to wheel out there.
Well, the hope for him would be he's getting Josh Jacobs back, DeAndre Swift back, Amon Ross, he's basically getting a whole lineup back because with Keenan Allen as well. It's
exactly. So he's got 3 guys coming back, and in fact 4 guys coming back in some Brown as well. So there's a lot more optimism. And if you're going to have a bad week, you might as well have it all in one week. Yeah, no,
completely. Yeah. Nothing else to add on that one, except that we both picked Pat for that one. So you are on 5-0, Chris. Let's see how we finish here with this last game.
It's going to let me down now.
The Detonators took on Cuphead here in week 6, our final game of the week. Both of these teams had a bit of a slowish start of the season, but the Detonators sprung ahead. They've recovered quite nicely. Meanwhile, Ross's team, which apologies Ross, I've forgotten, I think it was Perfect Dak last week, was 1-4 coming off their first win, but they can't stop the wins now because they win this one 99-70. So they go to 2-4. And but then they drop to 3-3. Looking down the lineups for Ross's team, Perfect Dak, Kirk Cousins got 21, Cooper Kupp got 10, Mark Andrews got 17, Gabe Davis got 13, Ryan Suckup got 14, and the Patriots D got 13. So a good solid day for what I think was probably around the 3rd highest score on the week on that 99. And then on the other side of the board, for the Detonators, they'd been surging of late, but they had a bit of a hiccup in this one. Geno Smith got 12, Breece Hall got 18, and the Rams D got 15, but no other players there. Travis Etienne just about got 10 as well, let's call it, but no other players over 10 points, so they only got 70 on the day. So the history of this matchup all time, Ross's team, where is Ross's team? Oh no, we've changed the tab, that's not helpful. Let's go with, I can see Ollie there, so looking at Ollie's record, so Ross is now 8-5 all time against Ollie. And to put you out of your misery, Chris, you did pick Ross in this one, I went Ollie, so you were a perfect 6-0 on the pick'em.
What?
Last week.
Has it ever happened before?
I don't think it has.
Oh well, that's it. I did wonder. I thought, hey, where have I gone? I can't remember. Well, I have to say, thoroughly impressed with that one. That's good. So excellent. Right, let's get on to the rundown then. And as predicted, yes, Ross ran out a comfortable winner in this one. Name value alone, I think we said last week, would take him over the line, and name value alone did indeed do that. Solid performances from the QB. Cousins, Mark Andrews again putting up solid numbers with a touchdown. Gabe Davis putting up solid numbers with a touchdown in a game that we thought he would thrive in and did. And I mean, an excellent score from the DST and kicker this week. Mm-hmm. Combined 27 points between Suckup and the Patriots D. So yeah, I mean, an all-round team performance, and not necessarily relying on the guys that you would expect. Neither, Cup puts up all right numbers, and Montgomery puts up all right numbers. But aside from that, it's a thoroughly good display from this team that's been put together by hook or by crook, and it's rolling. How, I do not know, but it is. And then Ollie's team, a bit of a ragtag bunch this week. Obviously, without Derrick Henry was going to be a challenge. And of course,
Olave was missed this game
as well. He was injured, so those are the 2 bright sparks there. Jeff Wilson, in his final outing, as it turns out, for San Francisco as a starter, fumbling out. But there's lots to still be a little bit excited about. I think the usage of Travis Etienne in that Jags offense, and Breece Hall particularly. In that Jets offense, who just have decided to run the ball and done really well with it. Yep. In the last couple of weeks, has some shoots of excitement. So I think that if you combine Henry with those 2 guys, there's still a lot to be excited about. But the one thing that he will have been waiting for the whole season so far is the fact that DeAndre Hopkins comes back in this next week and solves his problem at receiver. So he can play Lamb, Olave, or him. and yeah, can kind of bring himself out of the mire. So yeah, another team without a quarterback, but it's okay to ride with Gino this year. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see that his resurgence. He's going to have a bad week every now and again. When he has a good week, he has good weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's 4th in Football Outsiders grading system at quarterback, and I think in PFF he's definitely up there as well. I think he's top 5 as well. So, as you say, just a bit of a down week in what was a fairly weird game for last week, but he's going to have these down weeks. But as you say, it's been pretty good. Yeah, Ross's team. So that they've gotten going. Let's see how long it's going to go for. And as you say, for Ollie's team, I think like you say, more of a blip than probably what's going to be the permanent case, as was at the start of the season. But yeah, they've gotten away from Wilson now, which they'll be pleased with as well. So
indeed.
That closes out the week then. So that makes you have 31-17 record on the pick'em all time now, Chris, compared to my 33-28. And on the locks, you are 6-3. I'm 5-6. So I'm clawing back my lock game as well. We'll go on to the in the news section now. So let's bring it in with the jingle. And it is a bumper news edition this week. We'll start off with key injuries, I suppose. So we covered a couple there in Tom's Tyrants game, but Tom's Tyrants we know have had a bad start of the season already, and they're facing even more challenges than getting answers to their questions. Marquise Brown is now on IR with a foot injury he suffered late in the game last weekend. J.K. Dobbins felt some tightness in his knee, which is why he came out of the game. He's now had, I think, arthroscopic knee surgery. He's out for at least 4 to 6 weeks, but it sounds like that could potentially even be a season ender. And then not an injury as such, but Cam Akers, obviously probably one of the busts of the season so far, unfortunately, which I just did not see coming either. He's still on the Rams roster as of now, but there was weird circumstances surrounding his game status last week, and then rumours of trades and things. So I classed it as an injury, but who knows what's going on there? So tough times for Tom's Tyrants, right, Chris?
It's rotten to see. It's like being kicked when you're down, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. And then not an injury news as such, but quite a notable piece of NFL news that obviously filters through the fantasy world. Christian McCaffrey got traded to the San Francisco 49ers. He plays for Ixan in the LOC and did not get traded here. But what do you make of that impact from Ben's point of view?
Well, it's going to be an interesting one to see how he's used. I mean, obviously going into a very run-heavy, run-friendly offense.
Yeah.
As they have there, should work wonders for him. I think for Ben's team, it's more interesting to see what happens to Debo, because we know how McCaffrey's used, and we know he can be used both as a back at the backfield and as a receiver, which Debo's been doing for the last couple of seasons. Whether or not he now goes and reverts back to being a genuine receiver, in the traditional sense, who knows? But yeah, having those two guys on what should be a reasonably high-powered offense now is extremely exciting. I want to see Christian McCaffrey do well for the 49ers. I think that's a great fit for the player, and yeah, may not get the same sort of volume as in Carolina, because let's be honest, he's the only thing that was keeping that offense ticking. But should see a lot more positive game scripts, I think. And therefore points and touchdowns, which has been lacking in this season for him.
Yeah, completely.
So yeah, I'm extremely excited to see that. I think that's a great move all around for the league and for the player and for us. Yeah, no, I agree. Whatever volume he might lose, he should in theory make up in touchdowns from a scoring perspective. But yeah, you're right. Is Ben's team overall a net negative with Deebo Samuel not being probably going to be used as much in the run game now? And as you say, in the passing game, the Niners aren't really a team that pass to the running backs, because mainly they haven't had, well, since Jarrett McKinnon left, a good receiving back. And as they're called yak bros, yards after catch bros, that their whole offense is around short passes and relying on the likes of Kittle, Debo to then gain the yards after the catch. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. Looking at the transactions then, so we had a couple of big spenders and some other interesting moves last week, so we'll just cover them off. So Napolitans adds Khalil Herbert for Chase Edmonds for $45. Quick takeaway on that one, Chris? And we've seen what he's done in games this year, but I hate the Bears offense, so
Yeah, he's obviously done very well, certainly when Montgomery has exited the game or missed the game entirely. But yeah, when he's there, he's a very weak flex option, I think it's fair to say, as you say, and not a very high-powered offense. Elsewhere, we had you, Chris. You added Latavius Murray for Evan Ingram for $25. What do you make of that one?
I've rolled the dice a little bit there. Someone's got to come out drums. They obviously don't like Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
I'm half hoping they trade him. And that means Latavius Murray will be the number one guy there. We've seen what he's done in reserve of, or at least in relief of better backs in his time. That Denver offense is a mess, but they'll look at what the Jets have done for the first 4 seasons and then change to a run-first offense. And perhaps that's what they'll do now, bearing in mind that firstly, Russell Wilson's out this week, and secondly, they've got to have some sort of foothold in games. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's more of a speculative ad, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. $25 isn't that much in the grand scheme of things with the top-up scheme and everything anyway. So Napolitans, they also had another big money ad. They added Juju Smith-Schuster for Isaiah McKenzie, and they did that to the tune of $32. What do you make of that one?
Well, I think any receiver in that offense has always got a chance of doing well. I think you'd rather have a guy like Juju rather than the number 3 receiver for Buffalo. Big money to spend. I'm not sure it's entirely justified based on his output this year, but it's not about what he's done so far; it's what he's done going forward. Yep. Dave's obviously seen enough to spend that kind of cash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he'd received quite a bit of money through the top-up scheme. He still has $53 left and profiles to at least receive. Even if we were to win out for the next few weeks, at least receive another 1 or 2 top-ups. So yeah, it's a speculative ad. So as you say, someone's got to catch passes there. And then the next one we've got, so this is kind of a double one. So Forge Flyers again, Chris, you added Kenyon Drake for Corey Davis. That was a free agent move. And the Dream Team also added Gus Edwards for Alexander Mattison, again a free agent move. Talk about these two.
Well, somebody's going to have to take over that, being the lead guy in that backfield now that J.K. Dobbins is injured again. Kenyon Drake had a great week last week, heading up that backfield. But you mustn't forget that Gus Edwards has been on PUP for so long. He's now been reactivated. Whether or not he will be instantly the red zone guy after being up for all that time, who knows? But yeah, both again. I think speculative ads. There wasn't anything that was certainly wasn't any money spent on it, and I couldn't believe that Kenyon Drake made it past waivers. To be quite honest. Tom was the J.K. Dobbins owner. I don't know, just didn't want to take the insurance, I guess. But yeah, it could be either richly rewarded for both of us. Drake may even get the yardage and Edwards get the touchdowns. But yeah, it could be a complete steak. But again,
yeah, we'll see.
We don't know. That's the fun of this game.
Exactly. Justice Hill's still mixing in there as well as an afterthought. But yeah, he's not going to be the lead guy. But as you say, does he get enough work to make either of those two also not viable as well? We'll see. Then we have so You Are Gold. This is another doubleheader one. So You Are Gold added Devin Duvernay, dropping Rashad Bateman. And of course, they're both receivers on the same team. And then Tom Starrance added Rashad Bateman for $11. Chris, this one?
Yeah, it's a bit questionable, really, because I think that yes, Duvernay has done well in the absence of other receivers in that offense, but Bateman is the guy still, and I think that I would trust him more. It's well worth spending the money on him, I think, because before he went down at the beginning of the season, he had a near enough 12-point week and a near enough 17-point week. Yeah. Played New England, who shuts a lot of guys down and fumbled once, and then he got injured. And he's been a victim of the numbers game in the last couple of years. He played 2 difficult defenses, hasn't got much volume, but you'd expect him to see a little bit more offense in the next couple of weeks. So he plays Cincinnati this week. He plays Cleveland this week, and then Tampa and New Orleans, who've been middling when it comes to dominate on defense. So I like the fact that that's a good pickup. It's certainly a plus pickup for Tom in the absence of any sort of quality on his team.
Yeah, no, completely. And you kind of going back to Kenyon Drake in this one as well, like you said, if I wasn't in such a roster crunch this week, Drake, Bateman would have definitely been two guys that I would have added if I could have done so. And even then, as I said, I talked to a lot of people about the trade. I probably would have done the trade I was offering to people, which was Gordon, Waller and McLaurin for Bateman. But got rejected and then drops him anyway. So odd one that, but there you go.
Very odd. Very odd.
Yeah. Then we've got the couple trades aforementioned. I have been trying to trade a few players, so I did get a couple agreed. So the first one we've got here, Ixan sends Mike Boone and $30 to Gridiron Gang for Melvin Gordon. We'll start with that one. What do you make of that one, Chris?
You don't pick up, no matter where he's going to end up, you don't tend to pick up a starting running back for $30 at this point in the year. I think it's probably worth it. Yes, that Broncos offense is absolutely disgusting at the moment, but they're going to have to sit down and work out a different way of being able to win games, because whatever their approach is at the moment isn't it, and if that's got to go through the running backs, it's got to go through the running backs. So yeah, I don't mind it. It allows you to clear house. It allows Ben a bit of upside on his bench.
Yeah.
Why not?
No, absolutely, and like you said, there's definitely the opportunity. And none of these guys that I did trade and was offering to trade, by the way, I was actually wanting to actively just move them. It was just a case of my roster situation. I agree. I wanted to keep hold of Gordon for the opportunity, on his own team, and then potentially for another team. Personally, I think he probably won't end up getting traded just because I don't think they could afford to do it, and I'm not sure what people are paying for Melvin, a 29-year-old running back who's, let's face it, had some fumbling issues so far this season. But the worry for me with the Broncos, as you said, the Broncos offense as it is, does this become a three-way committee? They also lost Garrett Bowles in not last week's game, but the week before. He was their left tackle, and that's obviously something, they weren't doing great even before that, and he was playing quite well. So, but like you say, from an opportunity perspective, $30 is a relatively low amount to spend for, as you say, what could be a startable running back for Ixan, which we saw on the bench earlier. It doesn't have a lot of bench options really. So it's as you say, a nice bit of upside, and for me allows me to actually start some players this week. And then the other trade that we have was bucking the trend. They sent the New York Giants defense and $10 to Gridiron Gang for Darren Waller. What do you make of this one, Chris?
I mean, Darren wasn't done as much as we would have expected this year, albeit yes, in another rank offense. $10 worth a punt. I think if you want to get rid of him, and I think I probably would have made the same deal. Had I been interested in the player, but yeah, you want to get rid of him. $10 is a good number to get rid of him for. So yeah, like it. Yeah,
again, didn't necessarily want to send him away. It was just looking at my roster. He was the kind of the bottom of it that I needed to move, or I would have ended up cutting him obviously to fill a player anyway. Has had a bad start of the year, has obviously now picked up this hamstring injury as well. I still think he can have a good season. He just wasn't getting the touchdowns really at the start, and this Raiders offense I think was finding its feet. But yeah, as you say, fairly inexpensive pickup for Mike to wait and see what he does, and then as you say, allows me to do what I need to do. So those were the two extra trades. And looking at the milestones, standing and stats, so starting off with the standings, Ixan still 6-0 at the top of the pile, both division and league-wise. 2 games ahead of Bare Necessities and bucking the trend in their division, which are 4-2 apiece. Bare Necessities obviously the highest scoring team at the moment with 655, only one of 2 teams over 600 points. And then Napolitan's running out the bottom there at 2-4. Also division, we have a lead change here. Gridiron Gang, my team now 4-2, picking up the win last week with Forge Flies losing. Your team, of course, Chris. Both 4-2. I've just ahead on points. The other team that's over 600 points this season so far. But Detonator's not far behind at 3-3, and then the Dream Team rounding out at 2-4. Then the Winchester division, which is still very much up for grabs, and unbelievably, if Tom did get some semblance of a team together, could still potentially even win this division. Palestine leading at the moment at 3-3, Cuphead and You Are Gold at 2-4, and then Tom's Tyrants rounding out the bottom at 0-6. Looking at the breakdown. So, in fact, before we do that, let's look at the playoff picture. So, obviously, at the moment, Ixan, Gridiron Gang, and Palestine would make the playoffs if they started today. Bare Necessities would be the traditional wild card as it stands. And then after that, I think it would then be your team. No, it would be Ross's team, surprisingly, as the highest points forward team that would, if things ended where they are today. But obviously, a lot of season to go. Looking at the breakdown, Bare Necessity still at the top, 49-17, with Gridiron Gang not far behind at 45-21. The middle of the pack's also hot on the heels of the top group, really. Ixan's 40-26, Dream Team 39-27. Then you kind of get to the middle ground, which are all at 500, and then the usual suspects at the bottom. Tom's Tyrants 12-54, and then You Are Gold as well, despite being one game back in the division, 14 and 52 breakdown records, so somewhat fortuitously still to being that close in the race, you would say. Looking at the coaching, Ben Assessi's Bedenators all at the top, but they don't necessarily aren't flush with options, so there's an element of lack of depth there. Chris, however, you third there, which definitely do have some good options on the bench, so doing quite a good coaching job there. Then nothing really else too surprising in the middle ground there. We go to the bottom, as we say, Tom's Tyrants, 142 points left on the bench through 6 weeks, averaging over 20 points left on the bench a week. Certainly when you're 0-6, that makes the difference in a division that is very much up for grabs as well. Quite frustrating, I'm sure, for Tom. Then the next closest, which is me, is about 50 points ahead of that. So just shows you what it has been so far. Then you put that all together in the true ranking, and it's probably fairly representative of where the power sits within the LOC at the moment, I would say, as well. Looking at the milestones, so we have a new all-time winningest coach leader, with you losing last week, Chris, and Ben winning. He now sits at the top despite having one less season than all of us. All of us founding teams anyway. At the top of the poll at the moment. You and my dad obviously tied at the moment at 105 apiece. And then Ollie sitting not far behind there as well. So with that win as well, Ben also notched his 100th regular season win, only the third coach to do so. And obviously with your loss last week, Chris, you now notch your 90th career loss. So
this is round number.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we like to see with the milestones and standings. On the trade block, so decidedly lower since I traded a few pieces last week, but still on for me. James Robinson, Terry McLaurin and Michael Thomas. Check out the power rankings when they land, which they should do so probably in mere hours. We will go on to debate corner, so I need to find out where John has got to. He's been having a great old time with what's been going on this week. Where are you, John? Can you...
Order.
Currently presiding over the Tory leadership race, so lots of order needed there. So John is a busy man at the moment.
Certainly.
Yeah. So again, I had a debate corner plan, but I'm going to push it to another week because it's still going to be relevant. So the one I've gone with this week, hot on the heels of the trades we've had this week, so that makes 3 trades so far this season, largely as a result of the obviously the thing we brought in with the AGM this year, and enabling waiver budget to be traded, has facilitated all of the trades so far, basically. So the debate corner for this week, Chris, is over under trades for the rest of the season 3.5. What do we think? So just to give you the info of when the trade deadline is, the trade deadline is on the November 11th, so that means it's week, what is it now, 7 this week, 8, 9, so it's like week 10, is that? Week 10?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
so there's like 3-4 weeks to go. About 3 calendar weeks to go. Over under trades 3.5 for the rest of the season.
I think that you're probably going to see. I reckon it's going to be around that number. I think it's going to be less. I think that people are just so. I don't know. They don't tend to trade. I think people tend to drop and pick up rather than try and look for the trade. So I think that the trades that have happened so far. Have all been instigated by you, have they not?
Yes, they have, yeah, which is usually the case.
So the likelihood is that unless you trade 3.5 more times, then the answer is going to be no. Unless there's an enticing player offer, I'm not in a position where I need to obviously this week was my bye week crunch, so that's what drove those trades. Unless there's someone I'm thinking of dropping, but maybe has some mo, you never know. But unlikely now that I've got 2 vacant bench spots after this week. I think you're right. I think it's going to be under. I could definitely see some trades happening just because now that we have this waiver budget thing and eligible, and obviously so far as I said, they've all been by me and they've all essentially been players for cash trades. It's not been players coming the other way as well as cash, but I could see a few trades happening where we kind of brought this measure in to make it a bit easier to trade because, where we have the Superflex format, doing player for player, it's all about your opinion of a player, really. There can be this waiver element which can make up the difference. Certainly from my perspective, where I spent all that money on Kenneth Walker, it made it more interesting for me, or more
desirable for me to trade these guys for money to get some waiver budget back outside of the normal system. So everyone's kind of got fairly good amount of waiver budget left at the moment though, so maybe only Ben is the lowest at the moment with 32, but yeah, we'll see. I reckon it's going to be under as well. So we'll go on to the previews for next week then. So in week 7 we go back out of the divisions again, or we stay out of the divisions I should say. So on the docket we have Gridiron Gang against Ben Necessities, which is a further Sun Bowl and the Corona Bowl 2 rematch as well. We have Bedenators against Napolitans, Tom's Tyrants against Ixan, Cuphead against Bucking the Trend, UR Gold against Forge Fires, and Palestine against the Dream Team. So I don't think we have any other bowl games this week other than the Father Sun Bowl. Chris, where are you going for this week's marquee matchup?
Well, I think that despite the fact that it's the Father Sun, and you've done it 2 weeks in a row, I am going to go for it because it's going to be 2 high-scoring offenses. both of your teams on a roll. I think that as fantasy relevance goes, it's the one to go for. So let's do it.
Sure, here we go then. Marquee matchup for week 7. And my Google Drive app's hidden. There we go. Gridiron Gang take on Bare Necessities in the Week 7 marquee matchup, which is a Father Son Bowl. It is a Corona Bowl 2 rematch, and it just happens to feature 2 4-2 teams, the 2 teams over 600 points in the LOC at the moment, the 2 high-scoring teams. It is a juicy matchup for sure here in the middle of the season. We are at the midpoint now with Week 7 as well. The projections do have it going in favour of the father of the two, though, 99 to 93 in favour of Bare Necessities. Looking down the lineups for Bare Necessities, Donnell Mooney comes in for AJ Brown, who is on a bye, and Damian Pierce comes off of his bye and into the lineup in favour of Devin Singletary, I think. So Bare Necessities going with the wishbone this week, 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 receivers. On the other side of the board for Gridiron Gang, it's a bit of a bye week issue with Josh Allen and the Eagles D on a bye. So Jimmy Garoppolo comes in and the Bengals D solving that. Elsewhere, Brian Robertson comes in over the now traded Melvin Gordon. The rest of the lineup unchanged, so we're going heavy here. 31 personnel, 3 running backs, a tight end, and a receiver. The history of this matchup all time. Gridiron Gang are... Where is the win-loss thingy? I've lost it. There it is. Gridiron Gang, or Bare Necessities are 14-7 all time against Gridiron Gang. Chris, yeah, this is the one that eyes will be on this week, I think, probably,
yeah,
despite the bye issues for my team.
Yes, I think so. I don't think you put out a terrible team in spite of that. This is also quite interesting in the sense that this is the only game that hasn't had points on the board yet after Thursday night. So yeah, like it. So yeah, let's go from the top down. Quarterbacks first of all. That's it. Lamar hasn't been his normal Lamar self in the last couple of 3 weeks. In fact, 15, 16, and 17 points. So it's getting better. But at home against Cleveland, grudge match as we know. It's definitely one of those we can get right.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy G against KC. I just think he's certainly going to be a game manager in this one, I think. But again, you like to think there's going to be plenty of offense in the game, especially in that slot on this evening. So,
yeah, this is how I look at it with the Jimmy G pick. And obviously there were a few quarterbacks I was thinking about. Matt Ryan, I think he's a little boom bust, but the volume would be that. With Jimmy G, you know what you're getting, as you kind of say when Ollie picked him up. He's a fairly consistent middling option. But with McCaffrey now being in town and the game script against KC, it's going to be a case of they either need to score points because they're behind, or they need to score points to stay ahead. That he's a bit banged up, so as you say, he's not the best of quarterbacks in the league. We know that, but I think for one particular week, game flow wise, he should at least hopefully put in an okay performance. Is my kind of thing.
He's certainly a solid option. You know what you're going to get from Kelsey. Lazard is playing in a game where he's the only receiver in that offense, playing against Washington, who is in a state of dysfunction. Mixing against Atlanta again. Another one that you would think would fashion well. Kenneth Walker against the Chargers. We've seen the Chargers can be leaky against running backs. He's going to be the guy. Brian Robinson against Green Bay. We saw what the Jets did last week to the Green Bay defense. And the Bengals do play Atlanta, who've been I say reasonably efficient. I don't know. They've played against some high-powered offenses recently, but last time they played against a quarterback at the same sort of level, they played against the Jets in week 3 and did very well. So I think there's still there's shoots of optimism there. But here's what I like about Unad's team is that almost all of his skill players are playing against teams that are either on the back foot or in a state of dysfunction. You think of Godwin and Fournette playing against Carolina. Their D might be good, but they have no head coach and they have no offense.
Yeah.
So you fashion to think they're going to be on the field a lot. Eckler playing Seattle, can't stop anybody. Pierce playing Vegas. Vegas are in a state of dysfunction. Yeah. What I don't like here, and Zerline's kicking at altitude as well, which is always an interesting one. But the 49ers D playing against KC. As good as the 49ers D, that's it. Perhaps you think it would be. They're banged up. They're playing arguably the best offense in the league, or at least a top 3 offense in the league. I'm not feeling that one. And I'm certainly not feeling Darnell Mooney against New England. I think Chicago and New England away, and they're going to get beaten up. So, yeah, you're going to have to hope for some big performances from the likes of Jackson, Godwin, Fournette, Eckler, Pierce. But as I say, there's enough names there to be able to get you across the line. For you, you're going to have to hope that Kelsey scores his touchdowns, that the Green Bay offense is functioning this week, Mixon gets volume, Walker gets volume, which I think they will do. It's a very difficult one to gauge. But with my 6-0 record on the line here.
Can it be 7?
That's it, indeed. I think this is a game where Lamar's going to thrive. And with some of the supporting tasks that are there, those 3 running backs are obviously number 1 surefire starters. And Godwin, who, though he may not pick up, flashy TDs, will get yardage everywhere. I think there may be enough to get him across the line, despite the fact that I like components of your team. So I'm going to go with bare necessities, just.
Yeah, I'm going to lock bare necessities, getting the lock off here nice and early for myself. I locked myself a couple of weeks ago and I'm locking against myself, so I'm having fun with the locks this year. But no, I think you're right. I think Lamar Jackson's he's been a bit spotty lately, but they've lost some absolute I don't know what they've absolutely collapsed in some games recently. The Baltimore Ravens, the games they lost against Miami, Buffalo, was it Buffalo? Yeah, I think so. And the Giants last week was borderline embarrassing how they lost them. So they're going to be out for blood. As you said, divisional rival. Browns D is a bit banged up at the moment as well. And then, as you say, that engine room of Fournette, Eckler and Pierce is absolutely solid, so whatever else they get on top of that is gravy. I think my engine room is fairly solid as well, but I think that all of my skill positions are probably going to have a good day. As you say, Garoppolo is a bit of a wild card. I'm not likely to score anywhere near close as likely to score as much as Jackson, and with the Bengals D as well, yes, 49ers D, bad matchup. And a bit banged up, but the Bengals D not that inspiring either. So yeah, I'm going to lock my dad's team here, and he's good. I think he'll probably win this one. Injury-wise for this one, so Michael Thomas did miss the Thursday night game. He's still come back from that toe injury. Other than that, I think it's a clean bill of health for both teams. So we'll go on to our next game then, which is Bedetonators against Neapolitans. The Detonators take on Neapolitans here. Both teams looking to stay up in their playoff race. Both are just a game behind just a game or 2 behind in their respective divisions at the moment. 3-3 for the Detonators and 2-4 for Neapolitans. The Detonators is projected to win this one 98-88, and they also have 11 points on the board, courtesy of Chris Olave in the Thursday night game. Elsewhere for the Detonators, Derrick Henry comes back into the lineup off of his bye. I believe they are unchanged after that, so they are going with the heavy personnel. Wishbone, 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 receivers. On the other side of the board for Neapolitans, Derek Carr comes into the starting lineup, getting the nod as Jalen Hurts is on a bye. Elsewhere, I think the rest of this lineup is unchanged. I believe so. So yeah, they're going with 20 personnel, 2 running backs, and 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, the Detonators are 0-2, so they will be seeking their first win against Dave. Will they get it, Chris?
I think that he's going to be up against it in this one, I really do. I think that again let's focus on what we call the engine rooms in this, because we've seen this tactic being rolled out, and I think Henry, Etienne, and Hall on paper should be really a really efficient engine room in there. But the Jets playing Denver, I don't like it, especially away. I just got a bad feeling about.
For all their dysfunction, the Broncos have got probably a top 5 defense.
They got a good defense, especially at home. So yeah, it's always going to be a challenge there. Etienne against the Giants, so we've seen his usage increase in the last few weeks, but say nothing to suggest to me that he's going to go absolutely nuclear. He's going to be one of those solid players, but it's again, we mustn't forget it's still the Jags, and the Giants have been playing extremely well this year.
And they're very much spreading out the running touchdowns. So obviously, James Robinson got them earlier in the year, and then last week I think Trevor Lawrence got 2 on the ground, and then Jermichael Hasty for some reason got that 50-yard touchdown. He actually hasn't even scored a touchdown yet. I thought that was the case. So he's even still seeking his first touchdown. Yeah,
and I have to say I like the fact that he gives you that so solid around 7 to 12 points a week.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You say not a dominant running back yet, but Derrick Henry is a dominant running back. He's playing at home against Indianapolis. We've seen him go massive again in this fixture in the past. That's all I'm saying. That's it. It's almost as though the Titans every year forget the fact what they've got for the first couple of weeks and then go, you know what, we've got the biggest, most dominant running back in the league. Let's just go through him. And for 3 weeks previous to the bye, they had done that. He was in the ascendancy, scoring crazy points once more. I think that's going to keep going again today. I can say today because it is today. Lamier's Detroit's a plum matchup, and then you get to the quarterbacks. Now, this is where I'm intrigued because he's going with Geno, which is quite right. He's dropped Russell Wilson outright, playing away at the Chargers. Now with the Chargers, they should be a much better defense than they have, and I would say that this is going to be a tricky matchup for him, especially down there. The Cardinals last week showed how you can bottle a guy like him up. And the points that Geno scored, the good weeks anyway. They played Denver on the first week, where it was a real grudge match, and then they played Detroit and New Orleans in 2 crazy offense games, for when he scored 30 points, and Atlanta in between at 22. I just don't think he's going to be able to score the points today. Whilst Derek Carr on the other side has the biggest opportunity to be able to put to bed, the fact that the Raiders have not started well on offense. This has got to be the day at home against Houston. It doesn't get much better. And then looking down the list, Hill in a great matchup, Higgins in a decent matchup, Kirk in an alright matchup, Stevenson with plenty of volume, and Harris against the poorest Miami Dolphins defense.
So allegedly with Stevenson, Damien Harris, I think from what I've seen, should be playing this week. We don't know how it's going to change, but he's still going to get the volume. Yeah,
I don't think it matters because he's done so well recently, being being that lead guy. Defenses, I say much for muchness. Cowboys versus Detroit and Dolphins versus Pittsburgh. I think both of them. Actually, the Cowboys this week, as good as they are, if Detroit have got all their offensive pieces together, then I'm feeling better for them. But similarly, them playing at home with that dominant defense is great. But the Dolphins playing Pittsburgh, rolling out Kenny Pickett, rolling out some randos, especially when you see that the Dolphins probably should be on offense quite a bit. I think that's going to be a good matchup too. So I have to say I like parts of Ollie's team. I like the fact he's already scored 10. That's always good. I think Henry's going to kick some ass. I think that CeeDee Lamb's if this isn't the game to get right and dominate, then this isn't. It's not going to happen at all. But from the other side, there's enough for me in the last few weeks to see that the Pollens are scoring, reasonable totals each week. I don't think that's going to change this week. Pittsburgh started to use Harris. Stevenson's being used by New England a reasonable amount. Hill's been dominant. Carr's going to have to get right eventually. This is the game. I'm going for the Pollens, but again, Only just.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. I'm going to lean Napolitans as well. Both these teams could equally have a good day, or there are things that you can identify and say, okay, yeah, that probably makes sense why that didn't work in hindsight. But no, I agree. I think, yeah, Dave's just set up a little bit better. The ceiling looks a little higher from where I sit, so yeah, I'm going with them. Injury-wise, Jahan Dotson, I think he re-aggravated his hamstring injury, so I'm pretty sure he's going to miss this week's game. Other than that, clean bill of health, obviously, Ollie got DeAndre Hopkins back as well, but didn't play him this week. So, yeah, we'll go on to our next game then. So we have Tom Starnes against Ixan. I lied to you at the top when we said we didn't have a bowl game because we have the Zero Bowl. We have two teams with a 0 in their respective columns. Tom Starnes 0-6 facing against the 6-0 Ixan. So the projections, unsurprisingly, do have this in favour of Ixan, but it's a fairly low projected scoring game of 81-74. Tom Starnes does have 21 points on the board, so we'll start on that side. And that is courtesy of the Cardinals D, who got 18, and Rondale Moore, who got 3 on Thursday night. Elsewhere, at the moment, they are unchanged, but they have Miles Sanders on a bye and J.K. Dobbins, who is on IR, who will most definitely be swapped out, so that will probably tip the projections in their favour. When we go to Ixan's side of the board, looking at the lineup, so I think Josh Reynolds comes in favour of... who would it have been? Antonio Gibson? Yeah, I think so. And that's probably the only change, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, let's go with that. So they are going with the 10 personnel. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, 10 personnel. 1 running back, 4 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Ixan are 11-8 against Tom's Tyrants. Chris, does Tom have a chance this week?
I think he's got more of a chance. I mean, he's going to have a really good chance when he brings in Jonathan Taylor and Brandon Ayuk into the team.
Yes.
But that's what I'm going to work on my projection as. And yes, I do think that he has a chance this week. I think 18 points is a really good start from the Cardinals D. It's Rondale Moore. A lot of hype about Rondale Moore this year. I'm not seeing it.
I really do. I hate to say it. And again, I think I've said this for the last few weeks. When you're searching for that first win, you're struggling. It makes you do weird things. I don't get the Rondale Moore play here personally in this one.
Nope. That's it. Struggling offense. Well, certainly through the air anyway. Yeah. And as I say, a struggling offense. They win by 42 points to 34. But it's it. They haven't looked great in the air. So yeah, that's a strange one for me. But yeah, I think if this is going to be, there's going to be a week. It's possibly this one. Jonathan Taylor comes back in after, albeit being injured, but
yeah,
there's certainly no doubt in the fact that he's going to be the lead guy in that backfield. Brandon Ayuk's come off a good week last week. Now that there's perhaps a little bit more stability in that offense for the 49ers with with McCaffrey coming in and things changing around a bit, and obviously Jimmy G being the QB.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's a sign of things to come against KC again. That could be one to watch. And you can't help but you don't hate Mostert this week. You certainly don't hate Brady and Evans against Carolina. We talked earlier on about a lot of offense in that game. So yeah, I think it's a nice start from Ben's point of view. It's when any team that's got Mahomes, now Samuel and McCaffrey, it's definitely a flashy looking team now. But the question mark does present itself is that what is the usage going to be between those two guys?
Absolutely.
And that is the key thing in this game. And this is possible. And it's crazy to suggest that even despite that, you're going to go for Tom in this. But it makes you question yourself because I don't think that obviously Lockett's a little bit banged up. He's going to probably play, but it seems that Metcalf is the number one guy in that offense.
Yeah.
It's not an easy game by any means. And we've seen what Cooper can do, over the last, 3 out of 4 weeks, 4 out of 5 weeks, is that he's obviously the number one guy. But whenever you got Jacoby Brissett thrown to you, do you really feel as though that's going to be a thing that happens every week? And obviously, and Josh Reynolds is in there again, questionable against Dallas. There's just a lot of question marks this week. I know that Ben's had a great start, but the solid foundations that we've talked about earlier on in the year with Mahomes, Samuel, and McCaffrey, if that can continue with Samuel and McCaffrey existing on the same team, then fantastic. If it doesn't, that could pull the pin out of this entire team. But who to go for?
I'm actually going to go with Tom's Tyrants this week on the provision that they obviously do change their team. But I just think it's one of those. It's an awkward week for Ben for the reasons you kind of said. Lockett, he is very iffy to play from what I kind of heard. They shut him down in practice all week to give him the best chance to play this week is kind of the long and short of what I heard. Samuel, like you say, with McCaffrey being there, how does his usage change? McCaffrey, we don't know how many touches he's going to get. He has literally just arrived there. He might not even play. It sounds like he probably will, but there is still a chance that he doesn't even play in this game. And you should say Josh Reynolds, he profiles to be the second receiver now with DJ Chark on IR and Jameson Williams not quite back yet. Obviously, St. Brown playing again as well. Ben does have some options on the bench, and I could look at those and say there's some there which should get you some points, but there's nothing that gets me too excited. Whereas for Tom's side of the ball, Brady, Evans, the Bucks in general, obviously they lost against a bad Pittsburgh team in a bad way last week. They're going to absolutely tear the living shit out of Carolina if they can. And then there's, as you say, there's a few Taylor's coming back, should be healthy against Tennessee's run defense. Actually isn't that bad, but it's Jonathan Taylor. He's got to get going. I know he's had a rough start, and then as you say, he's bringing in one of Ayuk, Bateman, or something like that to go with Raheem Mostert, who should be okay. He's effectively the lead running back in Miami now. So yeah, I'm going with Tom. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think you're dead right. And if you consider that Ben's team could be, take Lockett out, it could be Melvin Gordon, and then it could be also Damian Harris in there as well. It's still not too bad.
No.
But yeah, I do think that there's upside to be had. But betting against a 6-0 team,
it feels weird.
It feels very strange to me. So I think I'm gonna play the percentages here. I'm gonna go with Ben's team.
Yeah.
But there is every chance that Tom has his best outlet in the year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's fair, and it feels weird picking against Ben because I think I've gone with Ben's team for a number of weeks now for good reason. But yeah, I don't know. Weird things happen when in the LOC and fantasy sometimes. I know in 16 against a 6-0 team, we kind of mentioned on the debate corner a few weeks ago. Wouldn't it be poetic if they both lost their zeros at the same time?
It's true.
Yeah. We'll go on to the next game here then, which is Cuphead against Bucking the Trend. Cuphead take on Bucking the Trend here in week 7. Ross's team 2 wins on the trot, trying to save the season at 2-4. Meanwhile, Bucking the Trend, they did drop one last week, which takes them back in the playoff race a bit, but they are still 4-2 and have had a good season so far. They've also got 11 points to start in this one, but don't have the projected win 87-85 in favour of Ross's team. So we'll start on Ross's side. So Robert Woods comes into the lineup, as does Hunter Henry. And I think those are the only changes for Cooper Kupp, who is on a bye, and Gabe Davis, who is on a bye. So they are going with 22 personnel this week, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, and a receiver. On the other side of the board for Bucking the Trend, Tua obviously comes back into the lineup. He's healthy again. And elsewhere in terms of lineup changes, Josh Jacobs and DeAndre Swift come in. They're coming back from their bye in favour of Clyde Soler and I think Michael Gallup. So he is going with 30 personnel, 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Bucking the Trend are 2-1 against Ross's team. And just to go back and tie off the injury bit from the last game, apologies, I forgot. So yeah, Tyler Lockett questionable with a hamstring, very iffy. Obviously J.K. Dobbins on IR with his knee surgery now. Josh Reynolds questionable. I'm not sure what his ailment is, but I think he should probably play. And Rashad Bateman questionable with, I think it was his foot injury, but again, it's looking like he's going to make his return as well. Can Bucking the Trend get back on the winning bus this week, Chris?
Yeah, I think they can. I think that with the introduction of Jacobs and Brown back into the team, it's definitely a definite boost. But the one player he's going to want to see back, and I mean, the end of the draft, who knew he'd be so
Mr. Irrelevant.
Tua's the man. I mean, yeah, Miami have not looked the same since he went down. And this week is a great opportunity to get back on the horse. Playing at home against Pittsburgh, who've been rancid in the secondary. So I think that there says all you need to know. Swift won't play probably. So you got to look to the bench and think who's he going to play instead. Keenan Allen, if he plays, is probably the number one guy you bring in first. But I think any of those guys are pretty good this week. Gallup against Detroit, nice matchup. Johnson against Miami, not a bad matchup. Clyde against San Francisco, plenty of offense. So I think whoever he brings in he'll be absolutely fine still. The Buccaneers is going to beat the Panthers up, as you say, on defense. And then you've got a bit of a flyer on Romeo Doubs there. I know that he likes playing him, but I can't think. I think there's probably a better option this week than him. But yeah, it's Mike's team. He can do what he likes.
Washington is a very good matchup for receivers, so I think if it were another middling team, he probably would have yanked him at this point. I think he's probably just seeing the matchup there, and I agree with you. It's an iffy one, but yeah,
is it maybe? I don't know. I just like Gallup against the Lions, especially with Prescott on the other side.
Sure,
it just saves that. It gives you a bit of an insurance against the quarterback if it goes his way. But yeah, Ross's team has been rolling recently. Yeah, that is no doubt. It is a bit of a bye-week hell for him. Obviously, Kupp is out and Gabe Davis is out. Both guys have been doing really well for him. So who's he bring in? Yeah, he brings Dak back into the team in a plum matchup. Robert Woods is the number one receiver in Tennessee, but we talked about earlier on, it is obviously a run-first offense there.
Yeah,
I don't see many points coming out of that. The Colts are still reasonably good defensively as well. Mark Andrews is the number one receiver effectively for the Ravens. He's going to play. You know what you're going to get from him. A solid floor of 10 points or more. Don't like Hunter Henry against the Bears. Just don't like playing Hunter Henry at all. I know he had a good week last week, but look, let's be honest. That's it. It doesn't matter who plays. Whether Matt Jones plays, whether Bailey Zappi plays, I don't care. That's it. You're playing a quarterback whose offensive coordinator is bloody Dan what's his name? Patricia.
Oh, Matt Patricia, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Matt Patricia.
Hey, he's got his act together lately.
I don't care. He's still Matt Patricia, man. Fucking Joe Judge. I don't care.
He's doing better than Nathaniel Hackett, who got hired for his defensive Browns.
He's doing better than Nathaniel Hackett. That is true. Though we mustn't forget Matt Patricia was the head coach for Detroit, and he didn't do very well there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was terrible. Yeah.
So anyway, David Montgomery against New England. We saw Chubb get bottled up last week. Don't know why there wouldn't be the same thing against an inferior offense. DK Metcalf again could see lots of volume, but again, in a reasonably difficult match. $2 the trend, his recent trend, and win the game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's bucking the trend in this one. I could see a very weird scenario where Ross does somehow win this game.
Yep.
It would take Dak Prescott having a good day and then some other randoms popping up, which would be Ross through and through, to be honest, and would result in a very upset Mike, I would imagine. But no, I think on paper, yeah, it's bucking the trends to lose. Obviously had that 11 points from Olatz as well, which is a nice start as well. Injury-wise, so yeah, DeAndre Swift, as you say, will not play. Somewhat surprising. It looked like earlier in the week excuse me, that he should make his return, but he won't. Mark Andrews, he's questionable with a knee injury. I think he's expected to play, but again, it's just one to watch out for. Keenan Allen, again, he's questionable game time decision. I get the sense he might sit another week there, and then Darren Waller already ruled out with his hamstring injury. We'll go on to the next game then, which features your team, Chris. It's UR Gold against Forge Flyers. UR Gold faces Forge Flyers, and we have a palindromic record here because the UR Gold are 2-4 facing the 4-2 Forge Flyers, and the projections do have it in favour of the higher of the two. Forge Flyers 79-76, which is albeit a fairly low projection. Starting with Chris's team, so you've already got 29 points on the board, Chris, courtesy of Kyler Murray with 18 and Elvin Kamara with 11. In terms of lineup changes, Kenyon Drake comes into the lineup for Zach Ertz. No other changes, so you are going with 30 personnel there, 3 running backs, 2 receivers. On the other side of the board for UR Gold, Jared Cook comes into the lineup, back from the bye with Stafford going onto the bye. Cooks also comes into the lineup, he was on a bye last week. in favour of Dalvin Cook, who is now on a bye, and Corey Davis comes from the waiver wire to the starting lineup as well in favour of George Kittle. So your gold are fielding the 10 personnel this week, one running back and 4 wide receivers. History of this match-up all time, Forge Flyers are 4-3 against you are gold. Not the best of starts for you on Thursday night, Chris, but I'd say reasonable off. I'd say the projections are also very brutal on your team for some reason.
They're very low, aren't they? Yeah, I totally agree with that. Look, I think that some of these matchups that I've got are all right. Sutton and Waddle against two defenses that are exploitable.
Absolutely.
Chubb against Baltimore. Now I've got Kenyon Drake against Cleveland, and both of them are easy to say are better to run against, and you think they're going to see some volume. Graham Gano kicking in tropical conditions, and Broncos going to beat Zach Wilson up. What's not to like? So I don't know. NFL.com doesn't like my team, but never mind. It doesn't matter because as much as I think that I am going to win this game, and I am, I certainly hope so. Anyway, I don't like Jared Goff against Dallas, and it's seemingly every quarterback that Ollie puts in just turns to rust.
Yeah.
Again, Brandon Cooks is in a tepid offense. Yes, he's probably the only guy in that offense that's worth it, but his points this season have been not great. All but one game with under 10 points. Pittman had a good week last week. I think Matt Ryan is a very different beast away from home. We talked about Tyler Boyd earlier on. If there's one game that he might do well, is this one, but he's definitely the third stringer. Corey Davis the same, but playing Denver in Denver. So, Zach Wilson hopes to target him, but I just don't know. They're a run-first offense these days, and let's be honest, Garrett Wilson's the guy. They're going to throw to if anything else. Aaron Jones has been weirdly underused. I mean, it's a very strange one in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. You would like to think they're going to be able to go through him a little bit more in this game. Washington aren't great, as we said earlier on, but similarly, they're in a bit of a funk. There's not really anyone he can turn to on the bench, and the Jags are playing the buoyant Giants. So I mean, I think that the projections are weirdly low, but I absolutely back my team in this one. There's nothing on the other side that really gets me too worried.
No, I imagine he will bring Jamal Williams in if Swift is ruled out. Probably over Tyler Boyd, maybe. I don't know. One of them or Corey Davis, I would say. And then, as you say, I think it's a somewhat interesting decision. He's benched Kittle as well because he's looked reasonably good in recent weeks. But no, I think for yours it should very much be a game for you to lose. Again, could you all go and have a weirdly, oddly good week? Wouldn't entirely surprise me, but I think looking at both the teams, this is firmly a game that you should be winning, certainly with what your gold have done recently. In terms of injuries for this one, so Jalen Waddle is obviously questionable, but he will play. Other than that, clean bill of health for your team, and I think a complete clean bill of health for Ollie's team as well. So short and sweet. So we'll go on to our last game of the week then, which is Pakistan against the Dream Team. Pakistan takes on the Dream Team, the leader of the Winchester Division at 3-3. Pakistan taking on the team at the bottom of the Portsmouth Division, at the moment at 2-4. The Dream Team, Pakistan projected to win it 97-81. Looking down the lineups, Pakistan also already has 19 points from Eno Benjamin on Thursday Night Football. Elsewhere, Devontae Adams comes back into the lineup. He was on a bye. What's his name? AJ Allen? No, I can't remember. A. Pierce, whatever his name is. Alec Pierce, that's it. We got there in the end for Indianapolis coming in as well. In favour of Justin Jefferson and Devontae Smith, who are both on bye. So Pakistan going with the 30 personnel, Wishbone, 3 running backs, 2 receivers. On the other side of the board for the Dream Team, Tony Pollard, I think he was already in there. Oh no, he must come into the lineup for Stephon Diggs, who was on a bye. I think Darrell Henderson was in the lineup as well, so he must have also brought in DJ Moore.
Unfortunately so, yeah.
Yeah, DJ Moore. So Viv is rolling with the 10 personnel this week, 1 running back, 4 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. Let's see here. Pakistan are 2-8 all time against the Dream Team, so the history is firmly in Viv's favour. Will history ring true once again, Chris?
I mean, there's every chance I have to say, there's every chance. I actually think this game is going to be a real blockbuster. I think this is going to be a proper ding-dong here. Both quarterbacks had great matchups. Adam has a great matchup. Elliott's got a good matchup. Dylan's got a good matchup. Packus D's got a good matchup. There's a lot, and obviously he's got 19-point head start. So Pat's got a lot to like in this game, I have to say. And Viv, well, we've seen his team, be headlined by Diggs recently. He's not playing this week, so he's got to bring in guys like DJ Moore and Tony Pollard. And there's no guarantee that they're going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen what funk Jerry Judy's in with the offense in Denver. Playing at home against the Jets should be hopefully a bit of a get-right game for them.
Is Brett Rypien also an upgrade at quarterback for them at this point in time? It's hard to
That's
say.
It. At this point, there's no difference. It's not as if Russell Wilson's been pulling up trees recently. But yeah, that's a difficult one. Williams against Seattle, that's good. Keenan Allen plays, it muddies the waters a bit, but again, you can't really beat the matchup. And DJ Moore, it's hateful, poor guy. Get traded, please get traded for the sake of your career, mate.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a real uphill task for Viv this week. Pat is absolutely in the driving seat with this one. Matchups, players all over the place has got what you want over it. Whilst Viv's gonna have to rely on Burrow and Chase and just hope and pray that other components fall into place. But I just don't see it. Pat all the way.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. I think Benjamin, if after the game you looked, if Benjamin alone outscores Judy, Pollard and Moore, I don't think you would probably bat an eyelid too much of that. And I think, unfortunately for Viv, that kind of tells you the state of the team, at least for this week. As I think, he does have obviously a few players on bye as well. But does he bring in Gus Edwards potentially if he's announced as playing? Possibly, maybe.
I bring him over Pollard for sure.
Pollard's a tough one because last year, when that Dallas offense was humming, and Zeke was a bit banged up and inefficient. Zeke's obviously healthier this year. The offense isn't quite humming as much. Yeah, you're right. Pollard's definitely not what he's been last year. So, and as for Pat's team, like you said, there's a couple of really juicy matchups on there. Herbert's been not playing great. I think they obviously need Herbert to play well to probably just sign, seal and deliver this one, but you would hope he would in that matchup at home. Adams is going to be a target hog with Waller and potentially also Renfro out against that porous defense. And then, the kind of support guys there, Dylan I worry about because he's not been that great either, but he's a better option than Curtis Samuel, so I don't mind that. And then I think, as you say, the rest of it should be able to bring Pat home. Packers D as well as one to watch. I had them at one point. I was like, this is great. Their lineup is absolute. Their matchups are absolute cake for weeks. But they've been a very underperforming team, I think it's fair to say, versus what they should be doing. If you just look down the points there, they've obviously been sputtering lately. I think in two, albeit a bit tougher matchups, they weren't too bad against obviously New England, but so they'll be hoping they can get back on track. But no, I agree. Pat in this one for me as well. You haven't used your lock yet, Chris. Where are you going with your lock this week?
I am going to lock. Ooh, I actually quite. Yeah, I think this one. I think this is the one. Pat to lock against.
So Chris locks Pat as well. So you heard it first. Another 12-0 prediction from you this week, probably, Chris. We'll find out next week, or 0-6 as it will probably go. You never know. We'll see. That is the end of the show, end of the preview. So thank you for watching or listening back if you're going to listen to this after the fact. Have a nice weekend. You are welcome to watch the games at mine tonight if you would like to do so. Best of luck in your matchups, unless you're playing me, of course. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
You're welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for listening, guys. We'll catch you later. Goodbye.